It's been domination for the Dodgers so far in this series. They have outscored the Mets 30-9 through these 4 games. Let's begin right there. How much of this is that the Dodgers are just maybe better than the Mets, or are the Mets not just performing, Todd?
Well, I think it's a combination, Gary, and I'm not going to say that the Dodgers are necessarily better than the Mets. That's a big, broad overstatement. And what I'm saying is that the Dodgers are playing the type of baseball that they've played all year, and the Mets are not. And they're not taking advantage of the opportunities they've had. There's been some missed opportunities offensively, but it really comes down to a lot to do with the pitching. You look at the offensive differences right there. The 30-9 runs, obviously the average. The Mets did have 10 hits tonight to the Dodgers 12 hits, but they weren't able to do anything with those 10 hits. They haven't been hitting with men in scoring position. But more importantly than that, they've been giving the Dodgers a ton of opportunities from the pitching side of things. Obviously, the 31 walks in the course of this series is a new record, so that's obviously something that's impacted things. But they're also allowing the lineup to turn over and get to the key guys in that lineup by trying to be a little bit too fine on the mound. And right now, the Dodgers are playing their kind of baseball confidently and having success doing it.
Well, we knew going into the series that the Mets starters would have to go deep into games for them to be successful. And in the first 4 games, no Mets starters gone beyond 5 innings. Part of that is because they're walking too many people. The Dodgers are a team that doesn't chase, and the Mets have a staff that tries to get people to chase, and that was never more evident than with Jose Quintana tonight. He was behind in the count. He walked 4, and when he was behind in the count, he got hit hard, gave up the 2-run double to Tommy Edman on a 2-0 pitch in the 3rd inning. That put the Dodgers ahead to stay. He got ambushed by Shohei Ohtani on the 2nd pitch of the game for a home run. And you go to the flip side, and the Mets had 2 chances with the bases loaded and got a total of 1 run out of it. They're 4 for 27 with runners in scoring position in this series. And really, it's been everybody except Mark Vientos. He's held up his end, and nobody else has. And it's really a combination of so many things. The Dodger bullpen is so much deeper than the Mets bullpen. They can afford to get short starts. They've gotten away with that in this series. The Mets haven't.
You know, we've heard so much about this Dodgers bullpen. Last night, they gave them 5 shutout innings, 4 2/3 shutout innings out of that Dodger bullpen tonight. So they have lived up to the billing. I think in many ways, they've been the big difference in this series so far.
Well, yeah, they've got some power arms. We saw it tonight with Evan Phillips, and you've got Trinan in there that it just looks like he's throwing wiffle balls with a ton of movement. And look, Dave Roberts has had the luxury of being able to go to some of the other guys to save those guys along the way because of the big leads that they've built up. So it's worked out well in the Dodgers' favor by the way the matchups have gone and the way he's been able to preserve his bullpen.
Well, we know this about the Mets. They are driven by the big guns in their lineup. And you started to mention a moment ago, Gary, and they simply haven't gotten consistent production from those guys at the top of the lineup. When we're talking about Lindor and Alonso and Brandon Nimmo, and that has been a big part also of what we've seen so far.
Well, they got the home run from Vientos, which tied the game after Ohtani gave them the early lead, but then they really lacked a response, and you see the numbers there for Lindor and Alonso and Nimmo, members of the Mets core, and it's hard to win when your best players don't have big series, and we've seen what Shohei Ohtani has done throughout this series. We've seen what Mookie Betts was able to do tonight with a 4-hit game, and the Mets' big players in the lineup have not produced the same way.
And then they had some opportunities that they weren't able to capitalize on. Much like last night in the 2nd inning, we talked about how that was a big turning point in a game that ended up being lopsided, but it was a big turning point because they had the bases loaded and weren't able to cash it in. 2 other times tonight, bases loaded, weren't able to cash it in. 0 for 7 in this series so far with the bases loaded. And those are the types of moments where a big hit in one of those times gives you that kind of momentum, gives you that kind of feeling that, hey, we're not getting shut down here and we're coming back fighting. They weren't able to do it. They got shut down in those big moments. And that's when you get some of that wind knocked out of your sails.
Right, and the Dodgers were able to do exactly that. They kept the pressure on Quintana after he gave up the home run to Ohtani the first time up. He walks him in the 3rd inning, gives up a hit to Betts. He comes back back and strikes out Teoscar Hernandez, but the Dodgers get the big hit. Quintana keeps falling behind on the count, gives up the hit to Edman, falls behind on the count, gives up a hit to Kike Hernandez, and the line keeps moving for the Dodgers. And the walks just killed the Mets over the first 4 games of this series. I mean, it's been a problem all year. The Mets led the National League in issuing walks, but they were able to survive that somehow, got better as the year went along. But 31 walks in 4 games. No team's ever done that before in the first 4 games of a series, and you can't win that way.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add one more point, too, because you and I were talking about this as well. Playoff baseball at times creates chase because hitters want to do something when they're up there. They get in big moments and they chase. This Dodger team still doesn't do that. They're so experienced in the postseason. They haven't chased all season long. They stick to their game plan. You see Muncy is just a master at making you throw the ball in the strike zone, and that just wears out a pitching staff after a while. And sometimes you have to almost take the opposite approach to a team like the Dodgers and just pound the strike zone and try to make them put the ball in play and let your defense play behind. Both Quintana and Severino have had good success with early contact with their sinkers. They went away from it trying to be too fine with those sinkers, and so then they get into hitters' counts. The Dodgers will kill you when they're in hitters' counts.